and our first fireside conversation, and it's going to involve Charlie Tan, Chief Executive of Global Impact Coalition, and Dr Adam Read, Chief Sustainability Officer at SUEZ Recycling and Recovery UK. The topic is advancing circularity across the chemical value chain. Enough from me, over to you two guys for the next 20 minutes or so. Charlie and Adam, thank you.
Thanks very much. I didn't know that there was free wings, otherwise I would have booked my flight for tomorrow, but you told us too late, man.
Okay. What about the people at home?
They've got a kitchen. They have a kitchen.
Let me just... Okay, hi everyone. Maybe just to make a connection, why is SUEZ and Global Impact Coalition sat together, apart from bonding a few minutes ago over our love for wearing, I don't know what these are called in English, pocket squares. We are also brought together really over a desire, I think, just to work in general in and along the chemical value chain. Maybe just to give a bit of context before we jump into this, maybe not the people in the room, but I think in generally speaking, quite little is really known about the chemical industry actually, even though it is accounting for pretty much nearly all manufactured goods, services worldwide. If we look at the car you drive, the phone that you have in your hand, how you wash your clothes, healthcare and so on, the insulation in your home, pretty much everything is linked back to the chemical industry. It is also an industry that has extremely complex supply chains, value chains, an industry that accounts for 2 billion tons of CO2 emissions every year, 2 billion tons. This is around 6% of all global emissions. And the curve is going up. If we think about the population increase, the increase in the middle class, the demand for general consumer goods, white goods, and so on, cars, the gap is actually getting bigger in terms of the gap to target, essentially. So I think this is a very important point to note. Once upon a time, around about 3.5 years ago, because of the nature of the importance of the chemical industry, CEOs at Davos, at the World Economic Forum, from a lot of these companies who you see here, basically stood up and said, we really need to take responsibility. We need to be able to see what are the, when we look at bringing low carbon products or technologies to market, what are really the pockets of opportunity where we can go quicker together. And this, out of these discussions, the Global Impact Coalition was born. So we had around about a year and a half with it inside the World Economic Forum, where we were basically figuring out how do we, as an industry that is, to be honest, an industry of dinosaurs, they don't really like change. How do we actually get these companies to collaborate? How do we instill a sense of urgency in the mission that we have to be able to, we can go quicker together, essentially. And then what does that actually look like, practically speaking, from an antitrust, from a competition perspective? So all of these great details we sort of figured out inside the World Economic Forum. We spun off into our own entity, founded and funded by a lot of these companies you see here. SUEZ also joined us around about a year ago, which, as I said, for an industry that has very complex value chains, supply chains, this was really a big thing to bring them on. Yeah. So if we look at, of course, circularity, access to feedstocks, and so on, it's very, very important that a company like SUEZ, who has that sort of same mentality when it comes to collaboration, was part of what we were doing. So this was. And of course, we have, how do we even find what these opportunities are? We have the whole structure and process in place. Essentially, what we are is an enabling and an accelerator platform to get, crucial technologies that have a significant positive impact, but just cannot be, because of the nature of the early stage risk, cannot be supported really by just one company. So we have this de-risking element, the sharing of knowledge element, and then through the involvement of the value chain of the chemical industry, we're able to really create new business models actually, and maybe I can talk about one or two of them in a bit. So just to maybe set a bit the context also for what we are doing at Global Impact Coalition, and then would also like to hear from you, Adam. Maybe we can take a step back, because SUEZ has sort of transitioned from a waste management company into sort of more of a resource manager. What does this actually mean, practically speaking? And then how does that connect really to global sustainability targets when we look at circularity and net zero?
Well, good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here, or good evening or afternoon, those online. Thanks for the invite, Charlie. I mean, I think, the transformation from waste management, whether it be disposal in landfill or even incineration, for those of you that understand the burning of waste, is something that companies have been developing and delivering on over the last sort of 20 years. We've gone from in the UK, just as an example, we were 95% landfill for all of municipal waste, stuff at home, for example, in 1985, 1986. Now it's down to 5% in landfill. We've got 44% recycling rate. We've got 45% going for energy recovery. We've got a little bit of organics. And that transformation is partly a recognition that landfill at the time was the right answer, but now we have better science. And energy recovery then became the right answer. Now we've got better science. And so it's this constant transformation of a business or an industry that's about two things in my mind. One is we protect the planet, the environment, and the people. So landfill was about not having stuff rotting on the streets. Energy from recovery was about not having stuff rotting in landfill. And now recycling and reuse and repair and other transformational technologies are about putting materials to better use. And that's where we are now. I don't see myself as a waste manager. I've been in the industry 30 years, but I do see myself as a resource manager, because I handle complex material streams. I keep them separate, or I separate them in order that they can go back into complex manufacturing streams. Because the chemical sector doesn't want a mass of stuff because my mum's put it out in a mixed bin and I can't do any magic to it. My job is to try and get it earlier, where the metals are separate from the plastic, so I can deal with the polymers in a way that the plastic sector or the manufacturing and chemistry sectors would want. And it's no different for other material streams, whether it be metal or paper, or now food, which is the big issue on many businesses and households' doorsteps. So I think the evolution is partly the changing economic and environmental context, but it's also the demands of the sectors that we work with. And we've become much more a value chain player than an end-of-pipe disposer. And going forward, and the reason the coalition I think is so interesting, is ultimately we need to work with people producing stuff and people who need raw material to produce stuff. And our job is to get the stuff, very technical term, in the right place at the right time at the right price. And I think that's how you make the circular economy work.
And you mentioned essentially working across sectors is obviously crucial. How is this evolution also from waste management to resource manager? How is this evolution, maybe if we look at the chemical industry, I mean, this is also the topic here. How is this evolution? What does this look like in terms of your involvement specifically with chemical players?
So historically, we would look to produce a series of material streams from your bins at home. And we'd be looking at what are those markets that we need to start to interface with, because we think we could sell that material in, or at least we could give that material away and it would be cheaper than the cost of disposing of it. So we have relationships with the cement industry who want a coal substitute material that we can produce from rubbish, which is lower in carbon, and it, for me, is cheaper than disposal. One example. Second example, the likes of BASF, big chemical company, brings us up and says, we need a suite of polymers and we don't have access to them in the quality and content and continuity of feed from our supply chain, because we've got targets for more recycled content, more secondary resource use. How do we get access to those materials, Adam? Because the future, our stakeholders, our shareholders are demanding that we move in that direction. So we sit in a room, we go and see one of my plants, we look at what's in the bins at your houses, and we start to work out what interventions we could put in place to provide the quality material stream of a sector that's changing. And suddenly we're a supplier. I'm not an end of pipe waste manager. I'm a supply chain specialist who's looking to meet your specifications, or the specifications of aviation fuel, or the specifications of any kind of recycled polymer or recycled content manufacturing process. It's a really exciting space, but it's very complicated because each of those manufacturers, or chemists, shall we say, want something slightly unique. And I'm sitting here with this mass, and I'm trying to work out, how do I get you your unique thing back at least cost, and preferably least pain to my mum? Because if I tell her she's got to segregate all of the plastics separately from each other, I might not get the answer I'm looking for. So how can we then innovate to do some of the segregating and sorting to give you the quality of feedstock that you need to fulfill your demands for secondary content?
And I think if I can also bring it back to your title, I mean, you're also not just Chief Sustainability Officer, but Chief External Affairs Officer.
Yes.
In some parts of the world, there's obviously, when it comes to regulation policy, it's extremely erratic at the moment. And you obviously work very much across public, private, business, government. Where do you see the biggest challenges or opportunities as well when it comes to policy, regulation? I know that it's SUEZ UK, but maybe also on a broader level. Where do you see these opportunities and challenges, and maybe how do you see things evolving over the short to medium term?
Wow, that's a big question. I'm lucky. I've got the two remits. I get to communicate and influence policy. But at heart, I'm a geographer by training. Sustainability is inbuilt in what I do, and I get to talk about it and also implement it and work with my customers on it. And I think that's the really important thing. So many of my public and private sector customers in the UK, but also globally, are saying, we're on a difficult journey and you're part of it. And I'm like, great, that's exactly what I want to hear, because I'm an ex-consultant, I love problem solving. So right, how do we, a big waste and resource management company, help you, big manufacturing client or a big public sector municipality, go on a difficult journey? Well, we do it by being open and honest about the data we've got, the opportunities we've got for innovation, the different technologies we could bring to the solution, and ultimately you come up with a co-designed long-term transition plan that we can both buy into. And I guess we're doing that, really well with the likes of Greater Manchester as a municipality who wants to go on a journey of reuse and repair. They want to be at the forefront of different and not about disposal. But you also look at the private sector and you go, there are some brilliant companies out there that don't know the answer to the difficult question, but we could be part of the conversation. I may not have the answers, but I can help then connect them with other people who are doing research or have done best practice, the likes of SUEZ, best practice in France maybe, or in Germany or in the US, where we can sort of start to piece together solutions that might work for your specific material stream needs. So I think it's being part of a collective conversation, and I guess I like talking, so conversations are good.
And so, I mean, we touched a bit on global versus local. Obviously, SUEZ is a very global company, but if we look at, you also operate in very diverse geographies, and it's with different sustainability challenges, I imagine, as well. How do you balance the overall, let's say, top-level sustainability commitments that you as SUEZ would make at a global level versus the reality of dealing at a local context level?
Yeah, these questions don't get any easier, Charlie. I think we've got 42 sustainability commitments at group level globally, which all then get translated down into local business units. So in my case, the UK, our roadmap. So we're looking to deliver against the Sustainability Development Goals and objectives that relate to all themes of biodiversity and carbon, etc. But we're doing that with an appreciation of local context. So what might look like best practice in France is never going to get delivered in South Africa. And so you have to acknowledge that progress in South Africa will be on a different trajectory with a different set of priorities. Still sits within our framework, but the roadmap in South Africa isn't the same as the roadmap in the UK for certain. And I think it's important that you can contextualise locally what works, because in the UK we talk about people, planet, profit. They don't talk about that within group very often, but that's because it works for my customer base here. They understand that you're balancing looking after communities and supporting communities with doing the right thing environmentally. But if you're SUEZ and you don't make a profit, I can't support the other two angles because we don't exist. So I have no problem talking to my customers about making money whilst protecting the planet and supporting communities. And I think that sits really well as a framework for us to then talk about balancing big infrastructure with local service provision. And one of our big commitments in the UK right now is we've got 60% spend on local businesses in Greater Manchester, for example. That's a commitment that we've got to deliver for social benefits. And that may not be the cheapest, and it might not bring the best practice, but it's important to that customer, and therefore we can do that within the global framework. And I think it's important you've got that flexibility.
So I think probably an even harder question I wanted to ask, which is, at least, and maybe everyone here is seeing the same on LinkedIn, there's all these posts about, is sustainability dead? Is it dying? Is it so detached from core business and strategy? Is sustainability dead? Is it dying? Does it need a rephrasing? What's your thoughts on this?
Well, we didn't rehearse this one. Is it dead? No. I think, I listened to the conversations about the role of the CSO, and I think over the course of the 2 days there's going to be a lot of conversations about who is the CSO and what weight do you throw. I'm one of 9 UK board directors in the UK. I throw my weight around. I sit at top table, I have budget, I have control of targets. So I'm not a CSO that sits below the director of HR or sits in operations. I think it's really important that we give CSO and sustainability the right seat to do what it can do. So in SUEZ, we've done that, and it makes a difference. But I sit in so many of these rooms where I hear people saying, I've got to talk to the guys in operations. And I'm like, why? Because you're not sitting at top table. And that's the reality. So I think to answer the question, is it dead? No. Does it need a refresh? I'm always interested in the narrative. Some of my customers don't like the word sustainability. They think it's a bit tree hugging. Others don't like circular economy because they've got no idea what it means. They just want to go on a journey where there's resource efficiency, there's customer engagement. We're protecting within what's reasonable the communities and environment within which we sit. And I'm comfortable that there is enough agreement in the big bad world about some of the things we need to achieve, that the remit of sustainability isn't going anywhere. We may need to just reframe it in terms of getting seats at top table. And I hope you all have seats at top table if you haven't currently soon, because then you can start to really influence the target setting. So interestingly, in the UK within SUEZ, and we've gone faster than group, we've got 9 strategic targets for the business. We talk to the business, everybody from the shop floor to the CEO knows what these 9 are. 3 people, health and safety, training and development, social value. 3 which are environmental: decarbonisation, biodiversity net gain, reuse and repair. Hey, I'm a waste management company talking about reuse and repair. See, this is big ticket stuff. And the other 3, growing turnover, because I can have more impact by being bigger, more contracts, more footprint, more profit, because that means we're being more efficient, which means I can generate more money for number 3, investment in the local. And that's innovation, it's R&D, and it's delivering on social value. So we target ourselves on knowing everybody in the business, my customers know, and I think that's really important, that I can make sustainability real to my mum as much as I can to the chief exec of Greater Manchester Waste. And that means we're a credible partner for a chemical business or a manufacturing company, because they can see what we stand for and they can see how we can work with them.
And maybe from my side, a final point. I mean, again, coming a bit back to advancing circularity, obviously SUEZ plays a crucial role in that value chain piece. How do you view collaboration, the importance of that from this chemical value chain perspective?
So I think collaboration, it should be on my job title, at least it should be somewhere on my business card, because I think we've acknowledged that we aren't the experts in everything that we want to touch, because we're expanding our remit into different material streams, different product cycles, different innovation. So, we partner with different universities, we partner with charity, NGOs. We're interested in sectors where some of what we might do in the future, 5 years from now, might become core. So our relationships with packaging manufacturers, our relationships with some of the big chemical companies started 5 years ago, because we recognised that what we had or could have would play in their world in the future. But you can only do that if we're talking to each other. So are we at the right events? Are we hosting round tables? Are we bringing people to see our sites? There's nothing better than the day I got invited into PepsiCo to go and look at some of their manufacturing plants with the one hat on, which was, how could our packaging change 5 years from now so that you can take more of it and go round and round and round? Now, there's an exam question I might not have thought I was going to get asked 10 years ago when we were the end of pipe. Now, we're at the front of those conversations, and that's because there's a much more collaborative collegiate need and recognition out there, which is why I want to ask you a question, Charlie, because you're heading up a really interesting program which is all about collaboration and business. Tell me about one or two of the projects you're working on.
Yeah, I would say, first of all, it's not easy to get companies to collaborate, honestly. It's not impossible, but I think there has to be, now more than ever, if we look at the chemical industry, especially in Europe, it's inherently at a disadvantage with high energy price, demand, inflation, and so on. So when it comes to sustainability-led topics, you are also competing. There's a cost of capital. There's other projects that might have a quicker payoff in the shorter term that might get more prioritized, let's say. But so it's very important that, I think, when we look at collaboration, this is really a culturally instilled from the top down. So this is really a CEO ensuring that the teams have very clear buy-in really into what we're doing here. To give you an example of one of the projects we're looking at now, we're running a physical pilot. So end-of-life vehicles, the plastics that are basically being incinerated or put in landfill at the moment. There are 5 million end-of-life vehicles in Europe alone. A car usually has 15 years plus minus of life, let's say, in the Western world. 20% of these plastics from the car are recycled, roughly, and only 1% of that 20% are basically closed loop in new cars. So plastic in new cars that have basically been recycled from old cars, less than 1%. So what we're doing here is we're working with, and this is an extremely complex project from a supply chain, from a value chain perspective, because you have to think, you have the sorters, the dismantlers, the shredders, and so on, the OEMs, so the car companies, obviously the chemical companies that are sort of sitting in the middle, companies like SUEZ also, who play a vital role here. So we're really looking at, this is the sort of project that is just too big for any one company to basically bite off alone. Also with changing regulations in the EU around the percentage of plastics that basically have to be closed loop in new cars in the future, it means that the industry now needs to act. They need to change gear to do something that they haven't done before. So we're running a pilot. We're buying and collecting a whole bunch of cars with all of the companies. SUEZ as well is involved in this. And basically seeing, can we optimize different sorting techniques, different technologies, so that we can actually create a viable business case that doesn't exist now, for different reasons. One of them is also because it's a very manual process. If you imagine ripping apart a car, there's literally a whole team of people operating the crane, ripping out all the wing mirrors, the dashboards, the lights. And then how do you then chemically recycle these plastic parts when they are covered in oil? They have different paint mixes to the plastic parts. So there's then cleaning steps that have to be reintroduced. So it's a huge operation. It's an operation that is frankly not that interesting for any one company to try to do alone. So it's a big learning exercise. And then the idea is really through this pilot learn how best we would then be able to scale this, not just in Europe, but really on a global level. Yeah, we have partnerships that cover companies in Far East, in US, in Middle East, obviously in Europe. So really the idea is this pilot is sort of like a step 1 in a step 5 process, right? That this is really the boots on the ground, let's learn, let's understanding how best we can basically optimize also from a unit cost how this plastic is being treated, because at the moment it makes sense to go into incineration because there's no real business case for it to do anything else. There's no next best or alternative really. So we're looking to really create that with some of these very large companies. And then we obviously need to see how things develop so that we don't overpromise. But really, these seeds are so important that we're able to lay them now in the context of collaboration. And yeah, I mean, this is a bit maybe one example that we have, and we have 8 or 9 different other examples from R&D based consortiums to big asset projects, or also that we're building. So, and everything in between, frankly, as well.
Thank you.
I think on that note, we're right on time, and I see I've been given the eyes to finish. So I'm not sure if you wanted to do 1 or 2 questions, or if we...
No, Charlie, your timekeeping is perfect, and thank you. Are there any questions in the room? There's a lady over there.
Are there any good questions in the room?
Thank you. That was really interesting, and I like the directness from Adam. That's really appreciated. My name's Maddie. I'm from the nuclear sector. And I'm really interested to learn or understand anything else you can share on how much collaboration you do with manufacturers to actually design out the amalgamation of organic and non-organic waste, and how that's going through your circularity process.
I'll start. Not enough is the answer. I think packaging sector, we've spent the last 5 years because we knew that there were targets coming. We knew that government was looking to implement change. So the packaging companies have been much more open to our introductions. There are other sectors. I guess the chemical space is one that's got a lot of impetus and action right now. I'd say there's plenty of other sectors that need engagement, but at the moment, either they're not aware they need to change, or we've not targeted them yet. And that's a bandwidth issue, because there's only so much collaboration I can do in a given week. But I'll come and see you afterwards.
And the person who's really in charge of this stage is Kieran at the back, who's giving me the evil eye, because we are at the end of our allotted time span. So we have to end there. Thank you for the question. And gentlemen, Charlie and Adam, thank you. It was absolutely brilliant discussion. There's themes that you picked up about at what level CSOs are at. Are they at the top table, or are they not? And what should they be doing if they're not? That I think are going to run throughout this conversation over the next 2 days. So thank you very much indeed for that.
Pleasure.
A round of applause, please, for Charlie and Adam.